I do experimental physics. Our research group has uncovered free energy, atomic element synthesis, that's linked to the Egyptian pyramids and to UFO technology. And our governments worldwide are deliberately hiding this technology. All the information that I post on my channel is related to this. This is science, vacuum vortex, plasma physics. It's going to be a whole new realm of science. And the video that's going to be linked with what I'm saying here now uncovers how UFO technology works. It's not anti-gravity per se, it's electrostatics, but it is propulsion. And it's directly linked to the Egyptian pyramids, like I said, and ancient knowledge from ancient people. And I need people to like and to subscribe to my page on TikTok so that I can get to 1,000, so then we can have open discussions about what I'm talking about. Now, I'm an artist. I'm somewhat of a savant. I'm not a scientist, but I've been part of this research group for going on 5 years now. And we can turn rubbish into gold, literally. We can do incredible things with this technology, including clean the world. Could you imagine what we could do if we all had free energy, unlimited supply of energy? We could build beautiful structures. We can clean up the world. There's technology, the thunderstorm generator, that can turn all the pollution back to oxygen via the fractal toroidal moment of plasmoids is the mechanism. It involves ball lightning in the structure of sacred geometry, sacred numbers, old Sanskrit knowledge linked to the Torah as well, and the sacred geometry inside the pyramid. Now, I'm not joking about what I'm saying here, and you'll get people that will just think I'm crazy and all this sort of bullshit. But have a look at the science on my channel. Take the time to actually watch the video that will be linked to this. It's incredibly important, and I hope there are enough people out there that have an open mind to what's going on, because it means Star Trek, it means warp drives, it means they've got their own technology, their own UFOs, and they're probably going to stage a fake alien invasion. It's really bonkers what's going on. Secret societies rule this world. I know, very particularly because of my bloodline to King Solomon and Genghis Khan. And that's very real, and it's caused my life tremendous amounts of problems. Something that's called satanic ritual abuse, where they've been harassing my life and my bloodline for thousands of years. And the Egyptian pyramid was also linked back to God, literally through the science. This is not me saying this, this is an experimental physicist saying this. And basically, it's in harmony with nature. It can be fixed. But there are a whole range of free energy systems that are about to explode on the scene. And a thunderstorm generator is an open source system that you can build yourself and put on any engine, and it will fix all the pollution. We can use coal, we can fix nuclear waste, anything. And it's been deliberately hidden by our wonderful satanic governments. Anyway, enjoy this video. It's incredibly important that you watch it. It teaches you how bumblebees use electrostatics frequency to basically be in harmony with our Earth's field, and then they levitate, and that's how they fly. It's an incredible range of science that I've been researching, and the trauma that's been in my life, my whole life, seems to be some sort of admission fee to be privileged enough to be part of this research group, which I was looking for answers to my own crazy life, to psychic abilities, which are real, which our government knows these abilities are very real because they're linked to UFO technology and how these machines work. You need to have these abilities in order to operate these abilities, these machines. Now, I hope there's enough of you out there that actually pay attention to what I'm saying and then look at the video after. Bob Greenyer is an experimental physicist. He's brilliant. He's very well credentialed. He's an expert on ball lightning, low energy nuclear reactions, LENR. The Soviets found out about this years ago, and so did they years ago. Tesla, they killed Tesla for it, and they've been killing people ever since to keep this secret, destroying monuments worldwide to hide this knowledge that's in sacred geometry, imprinted on buildings everywhere. It's a crazy world we live in, people. A very, very crazy world. And have a look at the John Hutchinson document that's on my page, talking about scientists that witness his anti-gravity, teleportation, things that are in the realm of science fiction that he states clearly that in the face of empirical evidence, he's now changed his opinion. Now we've witnessed all these things in our research. It's done online, it's done on YouTube, so people can stay in their countries of origin, and we all participate watching what Bob presents, and we have discussions, and this is open for everyone to be involved. And there's been a literal prophecy fulfilled in this research. That's not my words, this is Bob's words, where people from the line of David will be part of the people who hand this knowledge back to the people of Earth, because our governments have been hiding this for thousands of years. How do you think they build the pyramids? Do you think they just picked those blocks up? No, they levitated them. The pyramid is a solid state vacuum vortex power station that can make elements, synthesize new elements out of the ether. You can turn rubbish into gold. And anyone in Perth that wants to put their money where their mouth is, they can contact me, and we can set up a system where we can make our own gold. And I'm not joking. It's based off Tesla's work. Tesla was right. There's free energy available everywhere from the 0 point field. This is a whole new era of science, and we're trying to bring in a golden age for all of us, quite literally, where we will have abundance instead of this scarcity that is artificially endured so that they can make us pay through our backsides. So please enjoy this video. It's incredibly enlightening, and you will see real documents of other scientists, and Bob's done a Einstein and collated all this over many, many years in order to make this breakthrough. And the prophecy was accidentally fulfilled. It was a total accident that's happened, and that connects back into my own bloodline, into King Solomon and secret societies and all this sort of crazy stuff that's in my life. Anyway, I feel very privileged to have learnt what I've learnt. I didn't finish school, and it was my art that enlightened me to a lot of things, where I would be drawing pictures of things that are related directly to this plasma and the sacred geometry, and things I didn't know nothing about, but yet drew images that match. This world is so strange, and it's full of horrible things, but it's also full of real beauty. And the beauty is, if we can get enough people to like my page and support me and support our research, this world will change for all of us. But we need to stand together as people, and we need to stand up, and we need to all stop work one day and just shut down their horrible, corrupt machine that's actually enslaving all of us. Black, white, green, pink, doesn't matter where you're from. As common people of this earth, God's chosen people, all of us, because we're from God. It's not just the Jewish people. We're all God's kids. That's literal. It doesn't matter what you believe. Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, they're all connected, these religions. And they've divided us deliberately. Divide and conquer, right? So please watch this video and like and share and help me get to 1,000 so I can actually do live streams on TikTok. They shadow ban my channel on YouTube. My government's trying to make me look crazy, and they're fucking with my life still. They torched my car the other week and stole my devices with serious evidence of horrible things that they're doing to our kids. Anyway, but let's not worry about the negative, and let's look for the positive, and please enjoy what you're about to learn on this review. This is just part of the video of the latest research from today. I'll link the whole video where you can watch it. It is long, but Bob is a brilliant communicator, and he'll explain things in a way that you'll understand it, no matter what your background. Anyway, enjoy.
Okay, and where is it from? Anti-gravity for aerospace applications. Anti-gravity for aerospace applications, just as you would want, right? It's alien gravity though, because we don't have anti-gravity. We only have propulsion. So it's got a whole load of things in here. You can look at these, but I'm not really interested in most of them. Anti-gravity effects can be implemented by manipulating space-time. Well, we've definitely been certain about that in this presentation. This paper reviews several different theoretical approaches for exploring the possibility of controlling gravity by generating forces that counteract or otherwise modify gravity for the purposes of aerospace propulsion. Einstein's general theory of relativity is a theoretical framework guiding this study. The paper also reviews other anti-gravity approaches via the interaction of quantum theory with gravitation, and it explores the question of which method or technique is best suited for aerospace applications and evaluates the make or break issues. Make or break, interesting, issues that limit them. Right. Here we go. Introduction. Gravity is the bane of aerospace transportation. The force of the Earth's gravitational field acts to pull all objects, whether in motion or at rest, downward towards the Earth's surface. Because aerospace transportation involves the motion of vehicles through the atmosphere and or into space, propulsion engineers are always faced with the requirement that aerospace vehicles will have to carry enough propellant and associated tankage in order to provide enough propulsive thrust to overcome the downward pull of gravity and achieve rectilinear motion. Energy has to be expended by a propulsion system to overcome the force of gravity. In addition to providing rectilinear motion, the majority of propulsive energy is dedicated to overcome gravity. The aerospace propulsion engineer is faced with two choices for control of gravity in this regard: passive control of and active control. Modern aerospace propulsion technology, which is based on accumulated scientific knowledge since recorded history, can only achieve the passive control of gravity, whereby a given propulsion device must develop a thrust that will passively counteract the Earth's gravitational pull, lift a vehicle off the surface, and propel it through the air into space. Newton's laws of motion and gravity require that the fuel fraction of any aerospace vehicle can never be less than that given by a simple function of the ratio of the vehicle's maximum speed to the speed of its rocket plume, jet, fan, or propeller wake. For example, this limit implies that a single-stage rocket that accelerates to escape velocity must be composed of more than 93% fuel. That is because the rocket must accelerate its working fluid from rest relative to the rocket up to its exhaust speed. Thus, exhaust speed for aircraft and chemical rockets are limited by material science, chemical reaction rates, and engineering factors to only a few thousand meters per second. To date, there is no technology that can achieve the active control of gravity. All right, fine. If one can eliminate or otherwise control the Earth's gravity field, then one has the ability to dramatically reduce the amount of propellant, its tankage, and overall structure and size of an aircraft or rocket, because there will no longer be any need for these to overcome the pull of the Earth's gravity while transporting a payload across the globe or into space. Instead, aerospace vehicles will only need to have the propellant mass and infrastructure necessary to change their kinetic energy from rest to a final velocity necessary to achieve atmospheric flight or space orbit. The Earth's gravitational well will no longer have any impact on aircraft, launch vehicle, or space flight dynamics if one were to achieve gravity control. Aerospace vehicles would merely levitate in the air, and their propulsion systems would be optimized for change in velocity missions. However, it is possible to envisage a form of active gravity control propulsion that would not require a change in kinetic energy. One of the primary concepts for goal of affecting gravity is anti-gravity. Genius. Which is a colloquial expression that specifically means negation or repulsion of the force of gravity. We prefer propulsion because it works in space as well. You don't need a gravitational body. A more general term that encompasses this notion and other possibilities is gravity control. No, we like propulsion. We like propulsion. If anti-gravity exists, it can be exploited to counteract or nullify the gravitational pull or attraction of the planetary or stellar body that acts upon a much smaller body. Einstein's general theory of relativity gives prescription for a variety of different anti-gravity generators. Even Newton's law of gravity offers several different classical prescriptions. Newton's law of gravity can be used to simply nullify the gravity field of one body acting on another by using a clever arrangement of masses. The theoretical possibility of anti-gravity also appears in quantum gravity theories, cosmological vacuum or dark energy, and quantum field theory. This report reviews all of these topics. The report will also review the topics of gravity control that include the production of anti-gravity self-lifting forces induced by quantum vacuum zero point energy, and by non-retarded quantum interatomic dispersion forces in curved space-time, that is, in a background gravitational field. The reader should bear in mind that many of these concepts are nowhere near having any form of replicatable or predictable engineering implementation. However, the report will provide theoretical estimates to guide the way toward technical implementation of anti-gravity. Okay. Negating Newtonian gravity, blah, 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 blah. Energy estimate for blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Not interested, right? Forwards dipole gravitational field generator. Blah, 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 blah. Unfortunately, blah, 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 blah. You need ridiculous amounts of things here. To counteract the Earth's gravitational force of 1g requires an anti-gravity field of 1g vectored upwards. And thus, the dwarf star density material within the pipes must achieve 10 to 11 meters per second in order to accomplish this effect. Right, so in these pipes, you have to have level of dwarf star density achieving 10 to the 11 meters per second in order to achieve this effect. Right. What was calculated by Lutz and Jaegner for a plasmatoroid, a plasmoid? He said that it is the density of a neutron star, the form of a pulsar. Bit more than a dwarf star, right? So if the density is much higher than a dwarf star, then potentially you don't have to accelerate it so fast. But, nah, this isn't what we're looking at. My friends, this is what we're looking at. Figure 2, dipole gravitational field generator. Using equation 5, forward in reference 13 and 14 showed that there would be a need to accelerate matter with the density of a dwarf star through pipes as wide as a football field wound around a torus with kilometer dimensions in order to produce an anti-gravity field at the center of the torus. Where is an acceleration of the dwarf star density matter through pipes, the tiny factor blah is even smaller, blah, 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 blah. Forward's reference 5 also identified a configuration. Forward's reference 5 also identified a configuration comprising of rotating torus of dense matter that turns inside out like a smoke ring as another type of dipole gravitational field generator. Where have we heard something like that before? That turns inside out like a smoke ring as another type of dipole gravitational field generator. As shown in figure 3, an inside-out turning ring of very dense mass will create an upward force of acceleration A. What have we said? That an exotic vacuum object has a higher binding energy. It is denser than ordinary matter. It can be very, very dense in the direction of the constant mass rotation is the mass velocity. This is also a feature of the Lenz-Thirring effect. Forward's linearization analysis generalizes all of these forces into the following two key ingredients that are required to produce anti-gravity forces. Any mass with a velocity and an acceleration exerts many different general relativistic forces on a test mass. These forces act in the direction of the velocity and in the direction of the acceleration of the originating mass. In summary, these forces are equivalent to gravitational forces, which can be used to cancel the Earth's gravitational field. Figure 3, dipole gravitational field generator, inside out whirling dense matter torus. One can also view this genre of devices as a gravity catapult machine in which the machine pushes a body away using its general relativistic anti-gravity forces to impart a change in velocity. A space launch operator on the ground wanting to send a payload up into orbit would just ratchet up the strength of the upward directed anti-gravity field to some value above 1g, and after passing the release button, the payload accelerates up and away into orbit. There you go. That is what you should consider here. That's Bolsing it up. These devices could also be placed in Earth orbit, stationed anywhere within the solar system, or even distributed throughout the galaxy in order to establish a network of gravity catapults. Space travelers could begin their trip by being launched from the catapult on Earth's surface, and when they reach the space, they would jump through various catapults as needed to reach their destination. Anyway, the point about that thing there, this thing there, right, is it's only looking at one torus. And I can't believe that given Bostic's drawings and Nardi's drawings in their papers in 1980, I can't believe that here in 2009, it isn't anything other than deliberate, limited hangout that they are not showing a torus within a torus within a tori. It has to be a deliberate hangout. I can't believe it's anything else. And if you have a torus, which the smaller these things get, the much higher the magnetic field gets in there, and the much higher the pinching, the much denser the material. Okay? And if you've got a torus made of tori, 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 the more you go, the denser that's going to get. And each one of those is going to be a slingshot, which is going to slingshot material around inside it. And then that's going to be a slingshot that slings material around inside it. And that's going to be a slingshot that's, and so on, orthogonally, X, Y, Z. And we know that it moves material around it because we've seen it. We've seen it in our experiments. We've seen it on the quartz in the Lion reactor and in the Vega reactor. We've seen it in the Hutchison sample, the fracture sample from 2007, where it's sweeping the material around it. That's just on the outer boundary. Imagine what it's like in the center of those fractal toroidal things. It's literally like a collider. It's like a circular collider going around. Extreme density in a very small space, moving around very fast, orthogonally in each plane. That is what's going on. And the idea in this paper that there are no practical things out there, well, I'm just going to play. No, I'm not. I'm just going to say it. There are. You have been lied to. More than 50 years ago, a 17-year-old boy showed a device on White Sands testing grounds. He'd built it himself. And when it was triggered in front of the former Nazi scientist, it launched into the air, I am told, at Mach 37. So fast that they barely were able to see it on radar. It basically disappeared from in front of their face. That is not the only example. There is a technology out there that does this right now. And it's not in the black world. It's real. It's real. You don't need a star. You don't need antimatter. And it works exactly how we say it works. The fractal toroidal moment allows for, at each fractal toroidal level, a phase singularity to allow coherence of matter and propulsion of matter within those. And when they're linked together and linked together into a ring, it's propelling it around, and it's a slingshot slinging into a slingshot, slinging it into a slingshot. Denser, 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 faster, faster, faster. Denser, 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 faster, faster, faster. Yin, 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 yin. XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. It will cohere energy from the vacuum. It can cause matter to collapse. It does form a non-radiating boundary, a bubble in space-time that allows it to be not subject to the forces around it. It works not against gravity. This is alien gravity. We don't want anti-gravity. Anti-gravity is pretty useless. And I'm sorry, my friend, that warned me to not talk about unification of the forces. It unifies the forces. Go and look at Proton 21's labs, right? Go and look at what Matsumoto says. What do you think this is? What do you think that is? What do you think that is? Point of electronuclear collapse. In a vortexy thing that goes through a wormhole, comes out, new elements born. Boom. It's already been done. Infinite energy and the ability to float as if nothing. My friends, this was O-Day Alien Gravity. My name is Bob Greenyer. Thank you very much for your time. And I'll just run through those videos again that I shared at the beginning of the presentation. Thank you to David for sending them to me this morning, having them being published this very same day.
Kept a very low profile for 7 months, but I continued to do my research, and I wrote Dr. Maxfield a letter, and that was perhaps my mistake. I said, look, I've done it. I've figured out the wave equation that we were looking for. And again, in my ignorance, I didn't realize how much work had already been done and gone before me. I was just kind of on the periphery or the edge of this whole development.
That's a device to be able to make things like flying saucers fly, is it?
Yes. Also, it's a device to store energy in the form of motion, like of a small star or a big atom. It's called, this is a long word, an MHD plasma, magnetohydrodynamic plasma, like ball lightning, and it contains itself. But it's a way to turn all sorts of electricity into a high voltage battery. Now, this would have been an immediate solution for the Middle East oil blockade at that time. Now, I wrote the letter in good faith, trying to say, look, we can stop the threat of war in the Middle East by using this as an alternate energy source. It's very portable, it's non-polluting. It had some byproduct radiation problems, but things we could solve. It would be cleaner than fission or fusion. Now, that's when people here in this country, at the Aeronautical Research Labs, politicians started to get a hold of me. ASIO contacted me. Good grief. An ad infinitum chain of intelligence people, including 2 CIA people from the States. And then the FBI eventually started looking for me in this country, and that again was after the intelligence war over there, after Hoover died. And I was unable to finish my research in this country. In fact, I met many dead ends in government departments and research facilities where they told me privately, like Dr. Tom Keeble in the Aeronautical Research Labs. He told me, yes, we know about the flying saucers your countrymen have built in England and in Canada. And in fact, we have film records of them here in the RAAF files. I said,
I want to stop you there.
yeah.
Are you saying, Stan, that there are such things as, let's call them flying saucers, but they are built on Earth?
Yes, that doesn't mean that I rule out the possibility of other flying devices or intelligent beings visiting the planet either from the oceanic bottoms or deeper areas or from other areas in space. But I am positive that we have the technology, I can even name you the companies and people involved, in making high-speed electric aircraft that do look, strange enough, like a saucer.
I'd like to ask you a direct question. You work in the field of anti-gravitics. Could you make what we call a flying saucer?
Oh, yes, with adequate funds and time, sure. I'd still be doing it for the research organizations if I hadn't differed in philosophy. That's where I got in trouble, because I stood up and said, why are you doing this? And it wasn't for me to know. UFOs, if they don't exist, or these electric flying saucers, if they don't exist in our current technology, I'll give it to the world. I'll be a hero, but I'll tell you right now, I don't need to do that. It's already done.
It's already done.
We have theory now, but I don't think any practical devices that would allow us to go faster than the speed of light and traverse many light years of distance in a very, very short time, using the same technique that we used to break the sound barrier, where we warp the shock wave.
We do.
On tops of the decks of ships that shoot smoke rings or charged particle rings like smoke rings at targets long distances away and strike them with enough force to electrocute or burn the target, depending upon what frequencies are used.
Richard Eskridge worked on both the weapons and the propulsion.
A way to use this process to control minds at a distance of 10 to 15 miles from a central transmitter, where people aren't even aware of it during their sleep, somewhat like post-hypnotic suggestion. This, in the wrong hands, is not a good tool.
That is an understatement. It is not a good tool.
In natural law, there's only one law, and that's you either know or you don't know. There's no guesswork. It's like, you know when you're hungry, you know when you want to sleep, you know when you want to go to the restroom. These are knowing. These are all natural knowingness. It has a great deal of difference from the synthetic or invented system of guesswork, of belief, if you will. You can believe this, but somebody can come along and get you to disbelieve it, and vice versa. So you go around and around and around all your life sometimes for some people and never seem to get anywhere until you stand up and look into natural law, which is either you know or you don't know. And if you don't know, then you proceed along a line that's comfortable for you. You proceed into the subject matter that you're studying, and you don't give up until you know what it is. There's no more guesswork. And you don't have to try to do this, because if you're following natural law, it will come to you. All you have to do is start it. The first step is just, I want to learn this, I want to know this. And just start it, and pretty soon it will start teaching you.
This might look like a radio-controlled bee, but it's actually a bee with a little radar transponder on it, which means that we can track this bee as it flies around the field.
And these little guys can carry 90% of their body weight in pollen, so it won't affect the way it flies.
I was in physics class, and the teacher was saying, bumblebees can't fly. It's impossible. They can't, aerodynamically, they can't fly. And I was on the second floor of the classroom, and I looked out the window, and there was a big, beautiful bumblebee staring at me right in the eye. And he was standing there doing something that this guy said he couldn't do.
First of all, the bees are flying much faster than predicted, an incredible 30 miles an hour, even when fully laden. The next surprise is where the bees go. They almost always overfly potentially decent food. And once they've found their patch, they then repeatedly shuttle to and from it. And this is the really clever bit. In spite of 30-mile-an-hour crosswinds, whether out or back, they all fly in dead straight lines.
I ran into a person. His name was Arthur Aho. What Aho explained to me was that, and he told me about the Heisenberg principle, that anything you look at, you are vibrating energy. You are radiating out of these eyes. You're radiating energy. You're a live being. And everything you're looking at, you're changing right in front of your eyes. You don't realize it consciously, but that's what's happening. So you're never going to get to the absolute, because the energy it takes to measure something also changes it. So I said, okay, well, what's that got to do with the bumblebee and the teacher? He said, well, he was right. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, he said a bumblebee can't fly aerodynamically. Yeah. And he's right. And I said, well, what did bumblebees do? And they said, well, they levitate. And I said, well, how's that? And he says, come on, I'll show you. And he showed me, he wrote a book, incidentally, I don't know if it's still in print. It's in the Library of Congress. The book is called Tomorrow's Energy Need Not Be Fuel. And in that book, he gave reference to what I'm talking about, that that of levitation, that the bumblebee, when he starts to beat his wings, when he starts to flap his wings, there's a little cavity, a hollow cavity next to the larynx inside his system that's hollow. And when he beats his wings, he starts to resonate this energy, and it goes back and forth, just similar to a guitar strumming on one side of the room and hitting the same chord on the other side of the room, or somebody hitting a high C and breaking a crystal. It's the same thing. It's resonance. And he said, what they do, they resonate. And when they resonate, they eventually reach the resonance of the field around them. And he explained it this way to me, that the Earth was, of course, spinning, but it was operating on a frequency of 8.5 hertz per second or so forth. And he says, once this bumblebee hits that resonant frequency of its surroundings, it becomes a free agent. It creates a magnetic bubble around itself, and it can go anywhere it wants. And I said, well, that's not in any of the science books. He said, I know. You probably never see it there either, but that's what happens. They'll discover it someday and bring it out, but it's just we have a conventional way of doing things, and then we have a natural way of doing things, and they're totally different. They're diametrically opposed in many, many cases.
The important point here is the bees. As you've heard, the bumblebee shouldn't really be able to fly. Those wings are way too small to lift that chubby little body off the ground. In fact, it's a bit of a conundrum also for the mainstream scientists. They can travel in perfectly straight lines for long distances without any deviation, even during a howling crosswind. Because of the resonant frequencies produced by the vibration of their wings, they create a bubble in the ether, protecting them from any outside interference.
So, what I said today was that in the case of bumblebees, if I can find it, did I say with bumblebees? I said with bumblebees, I don't know whether I got it. Basically, bumblebees have wings that are made of chitin. The chitin has little hairs on them. The hairs are piezoelectric. The chitin is piezoelectric. It produces a space charge at the tip, and the tip then produces exotic vacuum objects. What did I say about the ARV? You have a Tesla coil potentially, but even without it, it probably still would occur. But they would produce charge clusters. They might accelerate the charge clusters, and it's throwing out charge clusters. In both cases, nature is the cause of the effect. In the bumblebee, it's produced naturally, and in the case of the ARV. In both of these cases, in the white world, I believe these are completely original suggestions for how these particular devices may function. The same is true of Lytra on a beetle as per Grebennikov. I have a lot of them here. I have prepared quite a body of work. It's a little bit more interesting for beetles, and I will go into that in a separate presentation. But in both cases, it is making the charge clusters available for the ARV and the bee to work. And what I showed is the normal debunking of the bumblebee's ability to produce this bubble around itself, where it's able to fly at 30 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind, just like the water cavitation bubbles in Suhas Raukal's lab was able to go quickly against the flow or direction of movement of the water. It's like its own little world. Just like Tesla said in 1911, the application of this principle will be able to make a device of any shape, any weight, be able to fly at fantastic speeds in any weather without any control surfaces or screw propellers or those kind of propulsion devices. very clear that that was known back then, that the principle would do that. And so you have a situation where it is magnetohydrodynamics. Magnetohydrodynamics allows you to change the vacuum, which allows you to go and break the laws within our normal space-time. And we then can listen to Hal Puthoff say his bit on this subject.
Well, what does a physicist and engineer mean by the speed of light? He means this little equation here, with speed of light is given by 1 over the square root of the permittivity times the permeability of the vacuum. So the point is, if you re-engineer those vacuum parameters, then you can make the effective speed of light higher in the engineered region. And so those are the solution in general relativity that are called wormholes. And again, it's not science fiction. This is just right off the shelf, standard textbook general relativity applications. So what that means is a reduced time interstellar travel is not, as skeptics would say, you can't get from there to here. Advanced ET civilizations now, or ourselves in the future, is not fundamentally constrained by physical principles. The exotic physics for such can be addressed in engineering terms, so metric engineering, as it were. And that helped us understand some of the aspects. I mean, you may have heard the phrase, dense stars, you get redshift. Well, it turns out in this engineered technology, you get so-called blue shift. That is, frequencies are upshifted to higher frequencies. So, for example, in this room, most of the radiation coming off our bodies, off the walls, and so on, is in fact in the infrared. But we see things in the visible range. But what happens if you get into a volume of space where the vacuum has been engineered in the way I've been discussing? It turns out you get a blue shift. So in fact, the infrared that you don't ordinarily see can get blue shifted up into the visible, so it's not surprising that all these craft should be so luminous. Now, the downside from all of this is the fact that visible light, which doesn't have any particularly harmful effects, gets blue shifted up into the ultraviolet. So you get too close to a landed craft, you might get a sunburn, or off into the soft X-ray region, so the chance of radiation poisoning. So if you run across one of these sitting on the ground, I would recommend you don't, and it's powered up, I'd recommend you don't rush up.
So the change space-time metric for the B is caused by the charge clusters emitted from the wings and the vortex produced by one wing and the anti-vortex produced by the other. This is what we know. The same thing can be done on the ARV, and when that spins up, when it's at a low level, nothing's, you're just getting some thermal energy stripped from the room, as was observed by Hutchison during the Hutchison effect. That thermal energy is slightly upshifted, and that is helping the device stay aloft. But when you spin it up, it starts to blue shift those things up as the permittivity of the vacuum changes and speed of light changes. You are doing vacuum metric changes. Ultimately, it's focused as a beam through the center, and the gravitational wave will come out through the top, and that will effectively drive up. And as your fractal toroid is spinning on one side more than another, or you're only using 6 or 8 or whatever, that is when it's spinning only a little bit. But when you might want to have it so that when you're just got it on the ground, you just got a couple of them spinning, and you have the walkway coming in, so it's not going into those particular ether vortices. But when you spin it up with more of these things, and you have a higher current so that it's spinning even faster, then it'll start to build the bubble around it, and that'll eventually look like a sphere in the sky, and it'll go all the way through, take the visible light all the way through to UV and X-rays, and ultimately you'll disappear because you'll go away so quickly. Okay, and we must again say I'm very sorry for the loss of Mark McCandlish and Amy Estridge. Apparently both handgun shots to the head within a couple of months of each other. I had communications with both of these people before that occurred. I can say that I do not own any form of guns. I stay away from any risks I can, and I really love my life and my family, and I love you guys as well. And I'd like to say thank you very much for those that have helped out with this process so far. This has been a community effort, and we are at the point right now where, as I didn't know this was going to be said by a video that I didn't know was going to be published and made available. But if you recall, my O-Day today, actually, if I go there today, the actual says this. You will know that the thing that drives the so-called cold fusion energy will also give us a fantastic means of propulsion. And it's about knowing you know. It's knowing for certain that this is the technology that does it. And you can, hopefully by now, you can see the obfuscation and the limited hangouts and the, oh, we're in 2009, we still don't know that this toroid is actually a toroid of toroids. We don't know that, even though it was in the 1980 paper by Bostic. We don't know, even though that in 1948, he literally started by making a torus and firing it to another torus, loop, anti-loop, and they came together. It was a torus, a tori, in 1948, but somehow in 2009, we still think it's just one torus, because we're not that bright. We're just not that bright. All of that money that we've had out of your pockets since 1948, all of that money, we were just, I don't know, just not that bright. I'm sorry, we're just not that bright. Yeah? No, it's been done. Doesn't matter if I do it, but it does matter that we gain access to this because we are living a lie. It's nonsense, and we can't wait on them because you can see what's going on. They've had 2 years of this revelations in Congress, and what they're revealing is already in the 1979 AC whole intergalactic transport paper. It's already in there. I already saw in 1979 the little glowy balls in the sky. Stop it with the rubbish. Stop it. It's not aliens. If it is aliens, then so what? Because we've already got it. We've already done it. Stop it. Stop it with the nonsense. Come clean. It's going to happen. There is already a party out there that knows how to do this. Okay? All right. And they're not in the black world. Okay? So, can we stop it with the theatre? Stop it with the theatre. It's not interesting anymore.